we had to stop because one of my kids needed to use the bathroom. And like, we stopped in the parking lot of an Outback Steakhouse. And I was like, almost in that parking lot. I was like, maybe I need to push. I was like, no, I do not. Like, we are not having this baby in the Outback Steakhouse. So,
I think it's ironic because you're Australian. So anyways.
So I was like, we definitely cannot do that.
I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 6 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Hi, everyone, and happy Monday, happy week, happy day to you. Hope you all are having a good week, whatever you're doing. I am in pain, y'all, physical pain. This past Wednesday, I injured my shoulder, neck, upper right quadrant of my back. I think it was a slow build, like something that had been building for a while. And then my body was finally like, okay, you're done. You need to take a break. Between nursing shoulders and wearing my baby all the time and looking down, working on the computer and everything, my shoulder and neck was finished. And so I was in excruciating pain for a couple of days. I still haven't driven. Let's see, today's Sunday. So today's day 5, and it has been so hard. I had to cancel all my plans for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like all of my plans, which was very humbling for me. I had to tell a postpartum client that I couldn't come to her regularly scheduled visit. I had to tell a couple moms I was bringing postpartum meals to that I couldn't come bring them meals. I had to tell my kids that we couldn't go to Jordan Lake for the day, which was really hard. I mean, just things. And I had to cancel my very first dance group of the summer. My dance group that my friend Taylor and I, who was on the podcast last week, we teach a summer dance group together. It's totally free, just all for women, Thursday nights in Greensboro. And last week was supposed to be the first one, and I had to cancel it because I was on the bed, on the couch, ice packs, couldn't move, all the things. I'm really, really hoping and praying that I will be able to dance this week. But even if I can't, Taylor will be there leading and dancing this week. So I'll be there being the DJ if I can't dance. But praying that this shoulder injury improves quickly. I just had to record a podcast, and my husband was so sweet to set me up with sort of like a reclined position in order to do it so I wouldn't be so uncomfortable. But I'm getting ready to go lay down again and take a much needed break from my shoulder. But anywho, had to tell you that because man, oh man, it's just been very humbling. I'm a doer. I like to do. I like to get stuff done, whether that's like, laundry, dishes, that type of stuff, or just like random organizing things or going to the store or anything. I like to be able to take care of my family, and it's just very, very difficult to have to just sit and lay. Not fun for me. So anyways, praying that this time next week when I'm recording my intro, I can say, hey, I'm all better. Everything's good. Everything's good again. Okay. All right. Well, enough about me. Let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode. It's a little bit longer. I love this story. It's really good. I hope you guys enjoy. Sometimes it takes several births to learn what God has been trying to teach you all along, that His ways are above our ways, that His plans are better than our plans, and that if we would just sink into that promise and let go of the reins, that we could trust Him to know and do what's best. Inara finally had this revelation after her 4th birth. After a long and complicated fertility journey, and after several pregnancies and losses that left her incredibly sick. While she's now found contentment living in the present, she's excited for a future pregnancy and birth where she plans to surrender and allow God to let it unfold on His timeline. Well, welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have Inara with me today. So, Inara, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your life and your family and help us get to know you before we dive into your stories?
Sure. My name's Inara. I am actually Australian, but I've lived in the US for 12 or 13 years now. I never planned to stay in the US, but I met my husband when I was living here. And then I was like, I'll stay 6 more months. And 6 more months has turned into 13 years. So we're still here.
Were you like studying abroad or were you visiting or like?
My mother worked for a company where we were moved like every 6 months. So we had lived a bunch of places. Like I lived in Germany, I lived in Chicago, and we were living in North Carolina. And I planned to go back to Australia to live there again because I turned 18. And I was going to go to university there. But then I met my husband in Charlotte and I was like, I'll just defer for 6 months. And it turned into a lot longer than 6 months.
It sounds like you're here for good.
Yeah. So now we're here and now we're like kind of too here to leave. So here we are. And then we left Charlotte because it's a little cheaper to live in Greensboro than it is in Charlotte. So we moved here. I have 4 girls. The oldest is, I guess she'll be 6 in a couple months. The oldest 2 are both IVF. And then we had a lot of miscarriages in between them. And then I have 2 that are not IVF, but they were like fertility treatments, just not as invasive as IVF. So they were all, besides the 3rd one, all of them were a very longer than I would have liked journey to have a baby. But except the 3rd was pretty snippy, and we don't know why. She was just faster than the others.
So, wow. Let's dive in because I didn't know any of that at all. So how long had your husband and you been married before you started trying to get pregnant?
Like a week.
Like a week.
Like a week. We got married in September of 2017, and I already knew that I probably had endometriosis. Like multiple people in my family had endometriosis. My aunt was like even in case studies for her, like severity of hers and everything. So like I knew I probably had it. I had all the symptoms, and I finally went to a specialist for it. And we scheduled the surgery where they like look for it and try to take it out for a week after our wedding. So a week after we got married, I had the surgery, and they were like, yes, it's very bad. It looks very bad in there. And so we were like, well, we want kids. So let's start trying earlier. Let's move up the timeline. Like we weren't planning to start trying to have kids that early, but we were like, well, let's move up the timeline. So we started trying right after I got the clearance after the surgery, and everyone was like, oh, you've just had this surgery. It's going to be really simple. You're young. Like everything's cleaned out now. Like it should be no problem. We were like, great. And I just had a feeling. I had this feeling that I was like, I don't think that's right. Like, I think this is not going to be that easy. But I was like, I'm just being nervous. Like, it's going to be fine. And I think after like 8 months, I was like, I'm not waiting until 12 months. Like I'm 21. I should be pregnant by now. So we went to the fertility clinic and we found out that my husband's sperm count was like nothing. It wasn't even high enough that we could do IUI. So they were like, your only option is to do IVF. And we were like, okay, so we'll do IVF. And still everyone was like, but when we do the IVF, it should be fairly straightforward, because you're young and like all of my testing looked great. Like I had this endometriosis, but like it had been removed, like, everything was okay. So we did IVF. We got a bunch, I don't remember how many, we got a bunch of embryos. We did the genetic testing and like they mostly looked good. And they were like, okay, let's start doing transfers. And our first transfer failed. And then our second transfer failed. And with genetic testing, it's really rare, I guess, to have multiple failed transfers. The chance of getting like a positive pregnancy test with genetic testing is like 97% or 96%, like is a very high number. with 3 transfers. And so we were on 2 and it hadn't worked yet. And we're like, okay, what is going on? So we had a really amazing doctor. And she was like, we're going to try something totally different. And we did this whole like separate protocol, but then the cycle got canceled because there was fluid in the lining and there was all these issues. So they were like, we're just going to cancel the cycle. So we canceled the cycle. I went back and did another endometriosis surgery and then another surgery where they took out like some polyps. And then we had another canceled cycle. And then I got pregnant with my first daughter.
With the transfer.
So it was our 5th cycle. It was technically our 3rd transfer, but it was our 5th cycle. So
wow.
I got pregnant with her. Yeah, it was a lot. It was awful. Like it was awful. And then once I got pregnant, I had a really difficult pregnancy. I had really bad hyperemesis. Oof. So I was so sick. And I ended up on like a Zofran like pump. Like I had like a pump where they were like constantly like putting the Zofran in because the medicine wasn't working. And home health, and this was also COVID. So home health care would come to my house and they would set up IVs every day to like for fluids because I couldn't keep anything down. Like I couldn't drink anything. And we couldn't go anywhere because COVID. I got pregnant with her in September of 2019. And then COVID happened March 2020. So it was really rough. But with her, I guess before getting into like birth stuff, with her, I couldn't get pregnant. Like I couldn't get pregnant no matter what I did. And we tried all these like special things. It wouldn't work. And then after she was born, I switched to, I could get pregnant, but I couldn't stay pregnant. And still no one knew why that was. We ended up having like several losses. Like I had a miscarriage at, I think 13 weeks. And then we had several other losses at 5-6 weeks. So it was just like we switched issues. They were both terrible, but like they were terrible in different ways. And then I got pregnant with my second when my first was like 14 months old or 12 months old, something like that.
With the IVF transfer?
Yeah, we did 2 transfers and then I think a canceled cycle to get to her. So I had my 13-week miscarriage and then I had a set of twins that we lost at like 5 weeks. And then we had my second daughter, who was also a twin, but we lost her twin at like 6 weeks, but like she stayed.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were both like really, really just difficult. Like it was just like nonstop. And it was like every bad thing that could happen would happen kind of thing. Like it was just like on and on and on.
That's so much.
Yeah, it was a lot. And we were like, it was just a struggle. And like my husband was, had to take all this time off work and his work was not appreciative of that.
Yeah.
So it was a really hard like balance to keep with everything. But yeah, her pregnancy was, my second's pregnancy was easier, but the conception stuff was still as difficult. And then when she was a few months old, my fertility clinic does this thing where every baby that's born from the fertility clinic, they have a wall where they put all their footprints on a wall. And so we went down there's like 2 hours from where we live. So we went down there to go put her feet on the wall because she was conceived there and they helped her be born. So we went to go do her feet on the wall and they call it baby feet. And we made her baby feet appointment and we were like, well, while we're there, let's retest my husband's sperm. Like, let's do the test again. And we can just kind of see where we're at. Yeah. Because we never found a reason for his sperm count issues either. Like he had all this testing done and they were like, we have no idea. So when we went, we were like, let's just do the test while we're there. And we did the test and it came back and everything was perfect.
Like everything was healthy.
Everything was healthy. It was perfect. And we're like, what happened? Like, why is it suddenly normal? And they were like, we have no idea. This doesn't happen really. So we don't know. The doctor literally at our appointment for our last baby, I was like, why? Like, I still don't understand why this happened. And she was like, if you ever figure it out, like, let me know because no one knows. So we were like, okay, it may not stay perfect, right? It may not stay good. Like, we don't know if it's going to go back to being bad. Let's go ahead and have another baby. Let's have another baby. Like, let's try and have another baby.
And how old was your second?
she was like 4 months.
Oh, wow.
We were like, okay, but
let's do it.
We were like, this is like a once in a lifetime chance. Like this may never happen again.
Yeah.
So I started weaning her because my cycles were, I had my cycles back, but they were wonky. So I started weaning her and I was really upset about weaning her, but I was like, it's okay. Like, it's going to be worth it. Like, it's going to be like, we're going to get somewhere. And I don't know. I had this feeling about it. I had this feeling with all of them. I had a feeling like when we had the conception cycles that ended with a baby, I just knew that those ones were going to work. Like something in me was like, I just like knew those ones were going to work. And the same when Marigold was born, that was March, and she was born, and like 48 hours later, I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to get pregnant in December. I'm going to get pregnant in December. And he was like, you're insane. And I was like, no, I just know. I just know it. And
Marigold was your second, right?
Marigold's my second. Yeah. Okay. Astrid's the oldest. Marigold's the second. Birdie is the third. And Scout is the fourth. So
those are such sweet and cute names.
So, but I just like, I don't know. It's like something told me, like, I just had this feeling. And I didn't know about the sperm results at that point. So I weaned her down and I went to my OB and I was like, I didn't even go to my fertility clinic. I went to like an OB and I was like, listen, here's the deal. And she was like, okay. She gave me like the tiniest letrozole dose, like the littlest baby letrozole dose, letrozole being an ovulation drug.
Just that makes you ovulate.
Makes you ovulate, yeah. And it was a smaller dose than I'd ever done. And in December, I got pregnant. And It was the letrozole cycle. And it was our first cycle where I was fully weaned because we'd been trying with even just like partial breastfeeding and it just wasn't working. So it was our first fully weaned cycle. And yeah, I got pregnant and I was terrified. I was terrified.
Even though you knew it was going to happen and even though it's what you wanted.
I was terrible. Well, I was like, I don't know, like I actually took the pregnancy test and looked at it. And I had never taken pregnancy tests except when I was like already pregnant. Like they tell you when you do IVF not to test. And I know a lot of people break that rule, but I am like a rule follower and I never broke that rule. So I had never taken a pregnancy test until I was like already very pregnant. So I took the pregnancy test for Birdie and I looked at it and it wasn't positive. And I was like, okay. And I texted my husband and was like, it's not positive. Like this cycle didn't work. I think it was like 11 days after ovulation, but I just
so maybe not quite to a missed period yet.
So, and I went to my computer and I even sent the email to the doctor's office and was like, hey, this cycle didn't work. Can you refill my prescription for next month? And I was like, okay, like that's done. And then I went back to the bathroom and it was positive. And I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, what's happening? So then I called my husband. I was shaking and I was like, actually, when you are on your way home, can you stop at the store and buy pregnancy tests? And he was like, yes, I can. Like, but he was very confused because I just told him it was negative. And he brought the like good pregnancy tests. And it was positive. So then my doctor was like, oh, I had to go back to my computer and email the doctor, be like, never mind. Can you call in the HCG test instead? And then they tested. And it was like 25 or something. It was like super low. So then we waited for the doubling and it doubled, but I was still just like terrified. Like after everything, like all the miscarriages and everything, I was just like, I don't know, like, we'll see what happens. Like, I didn't want to like get attached. Like, I didn't want to like admit that it was possible yet. And so we went in for the heartbeat ultrasound and she had a heartbeat and I still was like pretty, like, we'll see.
Like reserved. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember when I finally like was like, okay. I think when I started getting really sick, I was like, okay, like maybe we're in it for this one.
Did you get as sick as you did with your first or just like more like your second?
I've never gotten as sick as I did with my first, but I got pretty sick. Like with all of them, I've been pretty sick. Except actually my last was not that bad, but my second and third were pretty
similar.
Still pretty bad. I slept a lot and when I wasn't sleeping, I was throwing up. But I got pregnant with her and they're 17 months apart, which is a lot. I'm not necessarily sure I would recommend babies being 17 months apart, but but it was worth it. Like it worked out. It was like, it was like divine intervention. Like it worked out exactly how it was supposed to work out.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, my fourth, I don't know. I didn't want to think it would be that easy again, but I was like, maybe it'll be that easy again. And it was not. It was not that easy again. We didn't do IVF for her though, but we had to do several fertility treatments. I think I weaned her around 11 months to stop because I was just really anxious, like really, really anxious about getting pregnant again. Like I've always wanted a really big family. And so everything with infertility was really hard because it kind of changed my whole perspective of like who I was going to be and like how I was going to get there. So when everything happened, it was like, wait, now who am I? Like, who am I supposed to be now? So anyway, so after all of my kids have been born, I get really stressed. I'm like, well, what if this is it? Like, what if it never happens again? So I really struggled with all of them. That's my goal this time, is that it's not my plan. I'm like actually done a very good job after this time. So I'm three months postpartum now, I guess 3.5. And I'm like, whatever happens, it's not my timing. Like I have to like pray about it and I have to just let it go. Like I have to let it be because I'm not in control of the situation. And trying to get pregnant with my fourth taught me I'm not in control of the situation. I want to be in control of the situation, but it's not within my timing. It's not within my control.
So how did the fourth one happen then?
We did timed cycles again, timed intercourse. But it was like an insanely high letrozole dose. Like it was a really high dose. And I had to have surgery again. I kept having these cycles where my lining looked really weird. When you're doing fertility treatments, they'll look at your lining and they see if it looks like receptive for an embryo to implant. And my lining kept looking wrong. Like on day 3, they do it on like day 3, right when you're still on your period, and they do it around ovulation. And my day 3 cycles were just like, or my day 3 ultrasounds were just wrong. Like something was wrong. And then my ovulation ultrasound, there'd be fluid in the uterine cavity, which is also bad. And they couldn't figure out what it was. And eventually I was like, last time this happened, it was the polyps. Like I've had these polyps, these uterine polyps removed like 3 times now. And this is what happens every time. And I have no other symptoms except this fluid. And my doctor was like, okay, well, you don't really have any symptoms of polyps, but like, if you want to, like, we'll do the surgery. And I was like, yes, that's what I want. And they did the surgery and they found several like tiny little, they called it debris, like little growths in the uterus, and they removed them. And then I ended up doing like a 2-month course of birth control to like suppress inflammation and endometriosis growth and kind of try to like dry up the lining that was there so we could like start fresh with a new lining, because I kept having issues with the lining being really thick when it shouldn't be. And I usually have issues with my lining being too thin. So something was like up. But then I was convinced her cycle didn't work. I went in for my day 3 scan and the lining was still really thick. And I was like, well, that didn't work. And then I went in for my day 12 scan, my ovulation scan, where they check if you're allowed to trigger ovulation. You give yourself an injection to like push ovulation. But the injection has HCG in it. So which is like the pregnancy test hormones. You can't take a pregnancy test for a certain amount of time afterwards either, because it will just come up positive.
Yeah.
So I've done that for most of my transfer cycles, because my IVF transfer cycles, because I do a weird protocol for my IVF transfer. So we're used to that. But I went in to check if I was allowed to do my trigger shot, and there were 3 follicles on one side. Like they looked at one ovary and there were 3 follicles that looked mature. And they were like, if there's any follicles on the other side, we will have to cancel the cycle because it's not safe for us to like trigger like there's such a high chance of multiples, like high order multiples at that point.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, oh, okay. And they went and looked at the other ovary and there was nothing. And I was like, thank goodness. So they were like, you can still trigger, but you have to sign this form saying that it could be multiples. And I was like, that's fine. I don't care at this point. So we did the trigger shot, and then, it was fine. I think I took a pregnancy test at like day 11, day 12. I took one of those little bitty strips, the cheap ones.
Yeah.
And it was negative-ish. Now looking back, I'm like, maybe there was a tiny bit of a line, but it was negative. Like I was like, it's negative. And the next day I did one because I was like, why not? I'm just going to do it. And there was like this little shadow on it. And I was like, interesting. And I called my husband into the room and I was like, it's probably nothing, but do you see that? And then also, can you go to the store and buy like real pregnancy
Buy the
tests?
real ones.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, I'll go buy them. And then it was positive. And then, but then we were not sure about her because I really worried with her because it had taken like a year to get pregnant with her. And like we'd had like 4 failed, like this was our last cycle before we just went back to IVF because nothing, it wasn't working. We'd done several cycles and nothing was working. So my actual test day where I would go in for blood work was the Saturday, but I got the positive on the Friday. So I emailed the fertility clinic and I was like, can I just come in today? Or like, how does it work? And they were like, yeah, just come in and get your blood work done today. So I came in and got my blood work done and it wasn't where they wanted. They wanted it to be, I want to say like 50, like they wanted the HCG level to be like 50 and mine was like 39 or something. So they were like, we don't know, like maybe. And we had to wait all weekend and we went back Monday and it had gone, I don't remember what it went up to, but it had more than doubled. Like it was a good increase.
So it was a good sign.
It was a good sign. And my progesterone looked really good. And like everything looked good. But I was just like, I just remember sitting on the couch for like weeks, just like obsessively Googling like every study on like HCG rise, like reading every clinical study that had ever been done on HCG rise. Like I was like, I cannot relax. Like I'm so stressed. I don't know. I really just struggled with anxiety so much with her. And we went to get our first ultrasound when I was 6 weeks pregnant. And there was a heartbeat, but she was measuring 1 day behind, which is normal. But like she was measuring 1 day behind. And I was like, oh my God, like this is like something, this is not going to work. Like something bad's going to happen. But I felt good. I was like, after the ultrasound, I was like, okay, like maybe it's going to be okay. And then I woke up that night bleeding, like just like red blood. And I remember like at like 3 a.m. just like sitting in the bathroom and being like, everything was okay. Like I finally was like, everything's okay. We told our family because I was like, okay, we can tell immediate family, like it's, and then I remember feeling like stupid. I was like sitting in the bathroom and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so dumb that I thought that this was going to be okay. So the next morning we emailed the fertility clinic. And I was like, I just laid in bed for a few days. Like they were like, just take it easy.
Did you keep bleeding?
No, I stopped bleeding, but I was just like, at that point, I was so just like, I was like waiting. I was like, I know that this is not going to work. Like, I'm just waiting for it to happen. But the fertility clinic was like, it's probably normal. As long as it stopped, it's fine. And I was like, no. Like, this is not normal.
Were you cramping too?
I was crampy and I was taking blood thinners. So I was like, should I stop my blood thinners? Like, what should I do? And they were like, like, let's stop them for now. So we stopped everything. And then I went back for another scan at 8 weeks. And at 8 weeks, like I'd had like one more incident of bleeding. I remember it was Easter. On Easter, we were about to go to church and I went to the bathroom and was bleeding again. And we were with my in-laws. And I remember like, I had to tell my husband, like I'm bleeding again, but I didn't want to like tell anyone else. So I was like, we knew. I remember the whole service, like the whole Easter mass. I was like, that's all I could think about was like right now am I bleeding? Like right now is something happening? But then I had another scan, I think a few days after that. And my doctor was like, so you've had some bleeding? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, we'll see what we see, especially with my history. Like it didn't feel super positive going into it. And when they looked at everything looked fine. Like she was fine. There was no SCH. There was like nothing. Everything looked fine. They never figured out what it was.
So just like unexplained. Yeah.
No. And, I presumably didn't have an SCH because the bleeding started right after an ultrasound. So they would have seen it. The best explanation we've come up with is that I was on progesterone suppositories that were a new brand. I'd never used this kind of progesterone suppository before. And progesterone can make your cervix really irritable. And then when you're pregnant, there's like a lot of blood flow to your cervix. So they were like, well,
it could have caused it.
Yeah, it irritated it. And that's what happened. But that's kind of like, that was the guess, which fine. That's the best. But no one ever came up with a better explanation than that.
Wow.
So that's like the fertility background.
I'm like, yeah, we just went through 4 conception stories.
Yeah.
I'm like absorbing everything you just
Yeah.
said because it's so wildly different. I've been begging to ask you, what was your faith like throughout that entire journey? I mean, from like trying to get pregnant a week after you got married through now several losses and several complicated conceptions. Like, where did you stand with the Lord during all of that time? Like, what was that like?
So for I want to say our first two, we were not religious. Like we were not religious. I was raised completely a-religious. Like there was no, we were a completely non-religious household. And my husband was raised Catholic, but when we met was not a practicing Catholic. And so our life was secular, right? Like we were not religious. But with my first, after a few months of it not working, we started praying every night. Like we would lie in bed and like every night we would pray. And I don't even remember I don't know even know how it started because we still weren't religious. Like I wouldn't have we weren't going to church. But
But did you believe in God?
I I believed in something. I don't know if my husband believed in anything at that point. But we would just I don't know how it started. We would just do it and it made me feel better. It made me feel like watched over. So I was like, we're going to keep doing this. And then after my second, my husband, for unrelated to anything fertility reasons, ended up wanting to return to religion. And so he started going to church again. He started going to mass again. And he was like, well, I want you and the girls to come. And I was like, yeah, like, why not? We'll come. And we sort of from there, I ended up converting into Catholicism. And then our kids were baptized. Like our kids hadn't been baptized. We had our kids baptized. And then for our fourth, like we had a lot more. Our fourth was the first time where we had real, I had faith, but I still don't think I was very good at having faith. Like I was like, okay, yes, like, sure. I believe in God. Like God is gonna, my husband was like, like this will happen for us. Like, his big thing is like, God wouldn't put this desire into our hearts if we weren't if he wasn't going to give it to us. Like he wouldn't make you feel like this longing if he wasn't going to give you an outlet for it eventually.
Yeah.
He was like, it's going to work out. And I was like, okay, but when is it going to work out? When are we going to make it work out? So we prayed about it. And I remember when I had to get one of these surgeries done, they were like, we can get you in quicker if we can do it in a non-anesthesia room. So we'll have to do it while you're awake, but we'll give you a Valium. And I was like, okay, I'm game. Let's do it. And so
wait, which baby was this for?
For Scout. This was for my last baby. Okay. This was for the first baby where we were really living a life with religion, a life with faith. And for that surgery, it was really painful. It was not nice. And the Valium, I'm convinced Valium doesn't do anything. When people are they give you a Valium before these procedures.
Not in a situation like that.
No, and they give you a Valium before these procedures. And I'm like, what does it do? It doesn't do anything. I'm convinced if I didn't take it, it would do the same thing. But I was lying there while they were doing this and just trying to focus. I'm doing labor breathing. Okay, you just have to focus on my breathing. And I ended up just sitting there, to myself, in my head, just praying, over and over and over again. And the doctor was like, are you okay? Are you good? And I was like, yep, I'm good. But I was just so inwardly focused. I just was I'm not even here. I'm just focused on prayer. And they found the polyps, they took everything out, and then we did the birth control because they took the polyps out and then the next cycle didn't work. So then we did the birth control after that. But this was the first pregnancy where I feel like we really leaned into
your faith,
God, leaned into religion. But I do think I wasn't very good at it yet. I feel better at it now after she was born because looking back on everything, I'm like, oh, this happened how it was supposed to happen. There was a lot of stuff happened with her birth too that I was like, at the time I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And now looking back, I'm like, this makes total sense. I just I didn't know yet that it didn't make sense or I didn't know yet that it did make sense.
Yeah. God has a way of not necessarily explaining himself in the moment, Um,
Yes.
sometimes that revelation comes much later, if at all.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so going into future pregnancies, then, do you feel like you and your husband are going to take more of a hands open, letting God's will and like peace, like kind of lead the way? And like, do you feel like you'll be less anxious about it? Like knowing that the Lord has a plan and a time and everything, or
So far, I feel less anxious. I feel like I got taught a lesson with trying to rush things with Scout. I weaned her, and with Birdie. I weaned Birdie before I was ready to wean Birdie because I was so anxious to like get pregnant again because I was scared about getting pregnant again, and if I would get pregnant again. And so I weaned her so we could stop fertility treatments, and then it didn't work. Like it didn't work, and
yeah,
I was like, well, I was really like, I really like breastfeeding most of the time. I really like breastfeeding.
yeah,
And I was like, this is really important to me. And now it's gone. It's gone. And it wasn't for anything. Like I could have just not done this because,
because we're still not
you know,
pregnant.
yeah, we're still not pregnant. And the polyps, all the stuff they had to do would have still been there. There was like, it was already there. So
Yeah,
waiting 6 more months wouldn't have hurt anything. This time I feel like I'm very much like, okay, obviously nothing is guaranteed.
right.
Like nothing is, there's no rushing didn't get me anywhere.
So are you still nursing Scout?
Yeah, I am.
There you go.
And I'm like, I want to at least make it to a year. And we can reevaluate it a year, but I want to make it to a year and 18 or a year or 18 months and be like, okay, like now where are we? Like now what are we looking at? And then we'll see like what happens at that point. But I feel more like, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And it's not in my control. And like, I'm trying to be okay with that. I'm mostly okay with that it's not in my control.
Well, you're newer to it, and it can take some time to realize actually the relief that can come with
Yeah.
not being in control.
Yeah. So I know we have 2 embryos left. So I know we'll do at least one more IVF round. I don't know if it'll work, but I know we'll go back and finish out all the embryos we had.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to conceive naturally at least one more time
Yeah.
because it's a lot more fun than doing IVF.
Yeah.
It's a lot less traumatizing than doing IVF. But
Right.
we'll see. I'm kind of like, right now things are good.
Yeah.
Like I have 4 kids. Like there were times when I
Right.
thought I would not even have 1 kid and I got 4 kids. Like life is good,
Yeah.
and what happens in a year from now is a problem for a year from now.
I like that mentality. And
Yeah.
that's where the Lord says in the Bible that we have enough worries for today. So
Yes.
leave your worries for tomorrow for tomorrow. I know
Yes.
I botched and really paraphrased that first, but you know what I mean? Like
No,
we
I
have enough
do.
worries for today.
Yes.
So we had very complicated, highly medicalized, intervention centered conceptions.
Yes.
How does that translate to the births themselves? I'm curious to know what your birth choices were for these 4 sweet girls.
I've had 4 very different births. But I will say my like personal, like what I tell people is I'm terrible at getting pregnant. I'm terrible at being pregnant. My body hates being pregnant, but my body is really good at giving birth.
Oh, I love it. There's the
I'm
redemptive
great at
piece
giving
of it.
Yeah, I'm terrible at being pregnant. I'm great at giving birth. So, my first was actually an induction, because I was so sick with her and just so.
Like you had HG the whole time.
I had HG the whole time.
Oof.
And I was just I couldn't even walk upstairs basically by the end of her pregnancy. I was just so weak and like my muscles were just like so gone. And then it was also COVID. So we were like, I didn't have to, but I was like, I need you to get this baby out. Like I need you to get this baby out. And
so how many weeks were you?
I was 39.5 at my induction.
Okay. And was it like standard hospital? Like
yeah, well, so
Pitocin?
At 37 weeks, I was like 3 centimeters.
Okay.
And
early dilator.
Yeah. So everyone was like, you won't be pregnant. You're going to go into labor. It's going to be fine. Like you're not. And she was so low on all her ultrasounds. She was so low because I had all these growth scans because she started measuring smaller and smaller. But they couldn't get good measurements on her because her head was so low that
Low,
they
and they
couldn't
couldn't
measure
even
her
see
head.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they like prepped us. They were like, she's probably going to have to go to the progressive unit, which is like a step up from NICU, because she's probably going to be really small. And like of all the pregnancy complications, you know, we don't know how much nutrients she's getting, but, you know, we're just watching it. But they prepped me for having a really small baby. And so we scheduled the induction and we went in. I actually had a really positive induction. Like I really, you know, people tell a lot of induction horror stories. And I'm not saying that induction is like, I'm not saying everyone should get induced, but I had a really positive induction, partially because my body was really ready. Like I was really dilated, like, you know,
Yeah.
like
Well,
my
and
body
you
was,
were so miserable being pregnant.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the HG.
And so we scheduled the induction. We went in because it was COVID. The hospital was empty and there was no inductions. So we got straight in. We didn't get like pushed or anything. We showed up at 7 p.m. We had an amazing nurse. She was incredible because I was like, okay, like I'm getting induced, but I'm going to do this right. We didn't have a doula or anything because COVID. So we were like, we're going to do this right. So I was like, I want the wireless monitor. I want like this, and this, like, you know, and she spent the whole shift working on this wireless monitor for me.
Oh,
like
man.
It wasn't working. And she did not, you know, I think a lot of nurses would have been like, okay, the wireless monitor is not working. You need to go on the continuous monitor. And she did not do that. She was like, no, I'm going to make this work. Like, this is going to work. So she was great. My doctor, I was with an OB practice. My doctor at that practice was awesome. I loved her. She is no longer practicing as an OB, but she was great. And she was like, I was like, I don't want an epidural. I don't want pain medicine. I don't like how it makes me feel. And also there's a million other reasons I don't want an epidural. And she was like, no, totally, you can do this. Like, it's going to be great. She was like, I've delivered babies on the floor. You'll be fine. You do whatever you need to do. But the problem was she was only part-time at this point and she didn't really deliver babies much anymore. So I couldn't schedule with her.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't going to be in the hospital. So we had to schedule with this other doctor and he was not bad, but our plan with my doctor, she had approved just breaking my water because I was already dilated. And I was like, I don't want to have Pitocin if I don't have to have Pitocin.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, that's fine. We can do that. We went into the hospital and I told the nurse, this is what our plan was. She went to the doctor and she came back and she was like, no, he says we're not doing that. And
Oof.
So we were like, oh, okay.
Well, it really is up to you. Wait, were
Yeah.
you still dilated to a 3 or were you more dilated at that point?
I was like 3. I think I was like a 3 and baby was like -1.
Okay.
And I was like 90% effaced.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, baby's still too high. We can't break waters. We were like, okay. Like, I don't know. Like we, you know, it was like just us. Like, and my husband is amazing. And I had coached him on like, we took birth classes and I'd coached him on everything. I was like, these are the things that is going to happen. And like, I've been like learning about birth since I was like 5, right? Like I used to like watch, like, remember A Baby Story? Oh my gosh. I used to watch so much A Baby Story.
The horrible, tragic stories of A Baby Story.
Like every show that was on TV about birth, like I watched everything. I used to get to stay up late on Thursday nights because in Australia, there was this channel called the Health Channel. And on Thursday nights, they would play documentaries about like birth or like babies. And I would get to stay up late on Thursday nights and watch these documentaries.
To watch those. I'm pretty sure A Baby Story is what made me so afraid of hospitals, though.
Really?
Like, well, with the drama they put around it and the music and the woman looks like she's dying.
That's true.
And
there's like Australian versions, which I think were less. Australia has less.
Maybe less intense.
Yeah. Well, Australia has like less epidurals and stuff too. So like there's more like, I think there was more like natural birth content.
Oh, yeah, that was not the case in America.
I don't actually know if I watched A Baby Story specifically. I just know that's the American version of the show that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So like I was like ready, right? And so anyway, he got a lot of coaching. He's great now, but like, and so he got a lot of coaching. And so anyway, she was like, we're gonna do Pitocin. And I was like, okay, fine. So they do the Pitocin. I didn't really know that I guess I didn't like looking back. I didn't really know that I could have like fought on it. Like I tried to, I kind of be like, are you sure really? And they were like, no, like he says this, like we're doing this. And so
were you here in the triad for that birth?
I was in Charlotte. This was at Presby, Maine. And so anyway, they started Pitocin at like 11 because they had to get a COVID test before they would do anything at this point.
Oh,
And it still
of
took like
course.
hours to get a COVID test back. So we waited, and I think at like 11:30, they finally started Pitocin. And my husband, Chris, went to sleep. He took a nap. I couldn't sleep. I was like, I'm like up. I'm like
You're
so
ready to
pumped
have your
up. I'm
baby.
ready. Yeah. Like, so they started Pitocin. I think I started having contractions around, I want to say like 4 a.m. I started like
So it
actually
took a
feeling
while.
something.
Yeah.
So I woke Chris up and I was like, okay, like, I think like it's time now. And they got out like a birthing ball and stuff. I hated the birthing ball. I hated the birthing ball for every birth I've ever had. I hate that birth ball.
I'm so sorry.
I hate sitting on my butt when I'm in labor feels so bad. So I was like, I do not like that. And then the doctor came in just before shift change at like 5:30 and was like, hey, like, how are you doing? They checked me. I was like a 5.5 or a 6. And they were like, okay. And I was like, can you break my water now? And they were like, yeah, sure. If that's what you want. And I was like, I do. I want that. Let's get this over with. And they broke my water, but they still kept putting the Pitocin up. Looking back, I would have been like, turn the Pitocin off. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
But I did not at the time know that.
Every 30 minutes until you're writhing and screaming. And then they're like, okay, well, we'll stop
They
turning it
left
up
that
now.
Pitocin on until I was pushing.
I'm sure
They kept
did.
bumping it up until I was pushing. And oh my gosh, it was terrible. And the contractions were so bad. It was so bad. But I was like, okay, like we'll be done soon. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
So I ended up in like, they can drop the bottom of the hospital bed. So like I sat in kind of like hands and knees on that. That's me like my birth position every time is like slightly like hands and knees with like elevated hands. And I remember telling my husband, like, okay, I think I'm done. Like, I think that I do want to get an epidural because I knew he would tell me that I didn't. And I was like, okay, do you want the epidural? He's like, let's just wait. And I was like, okay, I just needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Like, I just needed to hear him say, don't do it. And also, I have scoliosis. And I'm like, if I get an epidural, it probably won't even work.
It may not work. Yeah.
So, like, I knew that. But I was like, I just need to hear him say not to do it. So, and we also got a new nurse at shift change. I didn't like the new nurse as much. She wasn't bad, but she was like, she was waiting for me to get the epidural. She was like, she didn't want me to wait too long. And like, she hadn't seen a lot of people give birth without epidurals. And she was like, come on, like you need to get your epidural.
Yeah.
The new doctor was really nice, but by the time she came into the room, I was like so like out of it that I don't remember her even speaking. My husband talked to her, I think, briefly, but I don't really remember her. But I think around like late 10, like 10:45, I told the new nurse, who I don't remember the name of, the old nurse who I loved was named Mandy. Mandy was great. I don't remember the new nurse's name. I was like, I think I need to push. And she was like, no, you don't. She was like, it usually takes a lot longer. Like you haven't had a baby before. You're a first time mom. Like you probably don't need to push yet. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I do. And she was like, well, wait. She was like, okay, hold on. So they hadn't brought in like a delivery table or anything. And they were like, okay, hold on. Because we don't know where your doctor is. They were like, she wasn't expecting to deliver anyone right now. So like, we don't know where she is and she doesn't have her pager. So we have to go find her. She was like, don't push. And actually first she was like, no, you're not actually ready to push. And I was like, I promise you I am. And she was like, I need to check. She was like, I'll check your cervix and we'll check. And I was like, okay, fine. She was like, but I can't check you on hands and knees. So you have to like get on your back. And I was like, no. I was like, no, you're going to check me like this. And she tried to, and she put her finger, I swear she put her finger like in my urethra or something. Like, and I was like, no, that is not right. And she was like, yes, it is. She was like, it just hurts to have your cervix checked. And I was like, no, that was not my cervix. I've had many cervix checks and that was not my cervix. And so I like got on my back because apparently she literally couldn't do it another way. So anyway, she checked me and I was 10 and she was like, oh, you actually are 10. And then they were like, oh no, we have to find the doctor. We don't know where she is. So
don't push. Oh wait, don't push.
They were like, don't push. And I was like, okay. So they went to try and find the doctor. And then the nurses were trying to prep, like bring in the delivery gear. So they were bringing all this stuff in and this wasn't a negative experience. Like we had overall a very positive birth, but it was like it was weird. It wasn't like my other births. Like it was they obviously didn't do this a lot. And everyone was super nice, but they obviously didn't do this a lot. And
didn't do what a lot?
Like natural births, especially unmedicated Pitocin inductions was not a common experience for them.
It is. It's not a common experience.
So they brought the delivery table in. It was her and another nurse. And she was like, and I was dying. I was like I was so loud. Like I was like suffering. And the contractions with the Pitocin were like, I would have like 3 90-second contractions and then like a 30-second break. And now I've had like 3 other babies. I don't make a sound until I'm pushing, usually, like comparatively. And with this, I was like moaning. I was like, it was so bad. But anyway, she brought in the delivery tape with this other nurse, and she was talking about me, not in a negative way, but she was talking about me. And I'm like, I'm in the room, like I can hear you. And she was saying, like, oh, like to the other nurse, like, isn't this amazing? Like, she hasn't had any pain medication. Like, she hasn't even had Stadol. Like, she's had nothing. Like, isn't this amazing? And so, like, it wasn't negative, but like, I was hearing her like talk about me. And like, I was like, what? I don't know. It like really, it was like, it made me like self-conscious almost. Like, it like brought me out of it. And she was just telling this other nurse, like, it's so, it's so amazing. Like, she's on Pitocin and like, I mean, it's great. Like, I'm glad you thought that. But like, also, like, she could have talked to the nurse about it out of the room. But she wasn't
another
saying anything
time.
Right. So anyway, they set up the delivery table. They did find the doctor. And the nurse was like, you need to get on your back to push. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And she was like, no, like, you should get on your back to push. And my husband, because again, like, he was very like, we did a lot of like practice, was like, no, like, she's not getting on her back to push. But I was like, honestly, I just want this to be over with. So let's just like, I'll get on my back and we can get like be done. So he was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? And I was like, it's fine. Like, I don't even care at this point. So I just want this baby out. So I got on my back, and she was like, the nurse was trying. I actually don't even know if the doctor wanted that, because it was a different doctor. I think the nurse wanted me on my back. I never asked the doctor. And that doctor now works for a very naturally minded practice. So I bet that doctor wouldn't have cared. I think the nurse cared, but
makes the nurse's job easier.
Yeah. And like the nurse was trying to do like coach pushing, and I just ignored her. I was like, I'm just not listening to you.
I don't have an epidural. I don't need the coaching.
Yeah. She was like trying to coach the pushing, and I was like, I'm just going to ignore you. And anyway, I pushed her out in like 10 minutes and everything was fine. But like,
nice.
Yeah, it was. And then that nurse, like, I don't know how I feel about that nurse still, because then after I pushed her out, I like, the placenta was delivered. And then I was like, can I go get up and pee? I was like, I really need to pee. And she was like, are you sure you can walk to the bathroom? And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure, but I need to pee. And she was like, okay. And I went to the bathroom, and she was like, again, she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, I can't believe you're walking like after you just gave birth. Like, I just can't believe you're like, I don't know if she'd ever seen this before.
Clearly she hadn't.
Like, she may not have ever seen this before. And she was like in awe. And then I got back to the bed, and I was like, okay. And also now I'm starving. Can I please have something to eat? And she was like, I can order you food. And I was like, please order me food. And she just kept going on and on. And again, it was really nice. Like, she wasn't saying anything mean. She was just like, I can't believe you're up and eating, and I can't believe you're walking around, and you're just like so impressive. And she was like, she said, this never happens. Like, we never have like Pitocin and unmedicated births. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you do. Maybe you just haven't seen them, but like, I'm not the first person to do this.
Yeah.
But even, again, like, I have trouble being mad at her, because she was just like, she was really nice.
It was just like a new thing for her. She was so not used to it.
And so I was like, okay. But yeah, again, she was nice. She just this was really new for her.
Yeah.
So anyway, she was born and everything was great. She had a little, like, some rough stuff postpartum, but she was, great baby. But so her labor, the whole induction was less. She was born at 11:11.
Oh yeah.
Which was very special.
That's really sweet.
Yeah. But then her whole induction start to finish was less than 12 hours.
Well, and I was going to say your contractions, if they didn't start till 4, then that
Yeah.
was like 7 hours.
It was like 7 hours. So she was like pretty quick for an induction. And so after her, they were like, we might need to watch you for when got pregnant again. They were like, we need to keep an eye on you because we don't know how fast this is going to be after that first one. Oh, and also she wasn't tiny. She was 7 pounds, 12 ounces. She didn't have to go to progressive care or NICU or anything. She was perfectly sized. She was actually my biggest baby up until recently. So she was a hefty baby and they just couldn't measure her head because she was so low down. So, but then my second, when I got pregnant again, I switched practices. I started my pregnancy with Marigold, who's the second, at the same practice that delivered Astrid, that I had Astrid with. But then my doctor, who was the one that I was there for her.
Yeah.
She left. She went to another practice and they don't deliver babies. So I was like, well, why am I staying? And I actually ended up having a doula for my second, not because, again, I felt like I didn't really feel any, not like there's a few things I would have changed about my first, but overall it was a positive experience. It was fine. But I don't know. I was just like, I want a doula this time. I feel like there's a few things that I'm like, I want someone else there, like to help out with everything.
Yeah.
And so I ended up switching to a midwife. They had OBs, but it was mostly midwife-based hospital practice. This was just after the birth center in town had closed. So all the midwives from this one birth center went to this one practice. So it was like, I was devastated that I couldn't deliver at this birth center.
Oh, did you start out like
no,
at the birth center?
I toured at the birth center when I was pregnant with Astrid, when we were still doing IVF the first time. And I was like, this is where I'm going to deliver. Like, this is what I want. And then they closed right before I got pregnant with her. So
yeah,
they didn't.
I remember that actually when all of them closed. Cause it wasn't the only one. There were several that closed all at once.
And so that was like also just traumatizing when I was trying to get pregnant because I was like, oh my gosh, it's taking me so long to get pregnant that now I can't even deliver where I want to deliver.
A birth center.
Yeah. So I ended up at this practice because that was my OB. And again, she was great. It was the rest of the practice I didn't like very much. But when she left, I was like, why am I here? Like, why am I still here? And I was like, it was the push I needed to switch to the midwifery practice.
Yeah.
That had all the birth center midwives. I didn't know at the time that all the birth center midwives had gone there, but I found out like after I switched. And so I switched
they're very
there
used to natural unmedicated birth. Yeah.
Yeah. So I switched to them and I like told them my whole spiel. Like I was like, I had an induction and the labor was 7 hours. And so like, I'm worried that this one's going to be kind of fast. And they were like, yeah, that's like valid. We'll see what happens. And they were great. Like the appointments are longer, with the midwives. And it felt much more what I expected a birth experience to be like, because in Australia, midwives deliver babies.
Right.
You don't see an OB unless you need have a problem. And so
that's how it should be.
Yeah. So midwives deliver babies and, it's getting more common, but it's less common to have an epidural. It's, there's still pain meds, but like, it's less common to have an epidural. In America, it's like a really high percentage. So, it was more in line with what I had been raised to think of birth as. So it was really good. I loved them. And then my second, we did a cervical sweep because the same, I was like, I'm going to die. Like, I'm so miserable because I'm sick all the way through my pregnancies. And I was like, let's just try it. Like, I'm fine to try it. So, and I was like 3.5 centimeters and they were like, let's give it a shot. But everyone was like on real high alert because Astrid had been so fast for an induction. Everyone was like, okay, if anything happens,
let us know.
You need to come in. Like, okay. So we had the cervical sweep. And then I think by like 1 p.m., I started having like some like irregular contractions, but nothing was regular and they weren't painful. They were fine. But I told my husband, he was at work, and I told my doula, and she was like, okay, interesting. Like, and no one trusted me because for me, like especially with my first, like it was very like chill. Like I was very like, this is not that bad. Like, it's okay. And everyone was like, your pain tolerance maybe, or your tolerance for labor pain. Some things like maybe we need to keep an eye on you. So I had some more like irregular contractions, but nothing regular. And my doula ended up being like, I'm coming over. Like, I'm going to come see you. So she came to my house and my husband came home from work And I was just cooking dinner and she like felt my stomach for a few of them. Like, cause they weren't in a pattern. They were just kind of would happen.
Sporadic.
And
Yeah.
she was like, I don't know. She was like, I think something's up. Like, I think something's up. And I had like,
As in like labor might be starting.
yeah, she said she thought labor might be starting. She was like, let's go in. She was like, I think we should go in and get checked because we lived like 35 minutes from the hospital and it was about to be rush hour.
Yeah.
So she was like, let's maybe just go in. And I was like, this is silly. Like, I don't need to go in. I'm fine. Like, I'm totally fine. These aren't even regular contractions. They don't hurt. I'm fine. Like, contractions are supposed to hurt. Like, I've had a birth before and they hurt.
Well,
yeah.
you had
But-
Pitocin contractions.
So
Slightly different.
We dropped my daughter off to stay somewhere and we went in and we, got to the hospital. I don't remember what time it was. Like, it was later. I remember it was dark. And it was March, so it can't have been that late, but it was dark. And we got to the hospital and we went to triage. And I was like, I feel really ridiculous being here, but everyone says I should be here because I had this cervical sweep this morning and I'm at risk for a fast labor.
And how many weeks were you?
30. I was 38, like on the nose. And they were like, yeah. They were super nice. They were like, we'll check you. Like, we'll check. And they checked me and I was like 4.5. And they were like, you're going to stay. They were like, let's have a baby. They were like, you can stay here because you've dilated more and we think something's up because after the monitor. I was like, okay. So I was hanging out. I still even wasn't technically in active labor.
Yeah.
I still didn't have regular contractions. They were like, let's just give it a couple hours. They gave me a room. They were like, let's just hang out and see, how this develops. They didn't want to send me home. And so we were kind of just like hanging out. I was bored. I remember I was bored. I was like, I was so bored.
Like I could be at home eating dinner right now.
Yeah. I was like, I don't need to be here. I'm not in labor. This is silly. And everyone's like, you're having a baby. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm fine. Like, this is ridiculous. And they were like, okay. So I'm like they were like, you could take a shower. When I took a shower, I couldn't even feel the irregular contractions because they weren't hurting. So I was like, I don't like that because then I can't feel anything. So I kind of just wandered around the room. We walked around the hallways. My doula did like some like belly lift stuff and like some different like counter pressure stuff to try and like change her position around. And then they came and checked me again. I called them and I was like, can you check me again? Like, are we getting anywhere or can I just go home? And they checked me again and I was like 5. And they were like, okay. They were like, this is like progressing.
What time is it now when they checked you the second time?
Probably like 11.
Okay. So like later into the evening.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like, you're not in active labor, but like, let's just keep watching. Because active labor is 6 centimeters now, right? I was like close.
Yeah.
And when they did that check, I was like, okay. I was like, if I'm staying here, then please break my water. Like, I just
like you wanted things to progress because
like,
otherwise you should have just been home.
Yeah. I was like, and they were like, okay, we can if you want us to. And I was like, I want you to. So,
how low was she? Was she low enough that was okay?
She was like 0 or +1. Like she was
okay.
like,
So she was really low. Yeah.
Yeah. My babies are always really low. I carry really low babies. So they broke my water. And I think, it was like 5 centimeters. And then she was born like 55 minutes after that. Like,
so they broke your water at like 11-ish?
Yeah, I think they must broke my water at like 12 because she was born at 1. So
apparently that's all it needed. And then boom.
That's all it needed. And she was born and it was fine. Like,
did you feel your contractions after they broke your water?
Kind of.
Did they get
Not
any closer
really.
together?
They got more regular. They got regular after they broke my water, but still like I was talking, we were chatting, like during the contractions, I'd have to like focus for like 30 seconds. And then I'd be like, I'm fine. Like, let's hang out. We were just
and then
hanging
suddenly
out.
You had the urge to push at some point.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, actually I do need to push. And then they called the midwife back in and they got everything set up. And then she was born like 15 minutes after that, I want to say.
Did you do hands and knees this time?
Yeah. And
Nice.
I delivered her on hands and knees this time. They let me, they were like, they didn't even question it. They were like, of course you can deliver like that.
Hands and knees.
She was born like that and she was 6'12".
Wow. A whole pound smaller too.
Yeah. But she was earlier. She was 2 weeks earlier. So pound smaller, 2 weeks earlier. So
look at you.
That sounded
like a cakewalk compared to your
It was
first
great.
one.
It was
You probably
easy.
would have
That
ended
was
up
great.
delivering her at home if your water broke at home.
That's why I was like, okay, they were right. I should have come in, I guess. Because they were like, if your water had broken at home, like you wouldn't have made it in here. And
Right,
I was
because you
like,
probably would have waited for the contractions to get intense enough
and the
to
contractions never
leave.
got intense. And so that's when we learned that
That's how we have car babies, right
if I
there.
do not have Pitocin, contractions really don't feel like much to me until right at the very end.
Well, praise Jesus for that.
Yes.
That is great.
So then when we had our third, everyone was like watching me because they were like, after
They're like,
that,
what's going to happen now?
They were like, after the second one, where you said it really wasn't that bad the whole time, like, we're going to keep an eye on you. So, and we were like nervous because we didn't want to have a baby in the car. And we looked at having her at home, but like financially, it just wasn't where we wanted to be like at the time. And we'd had a really, really good experience with the midwives in the hospital. So we were like, we'll just stay with them because they've been great. And it was a really, really, really positive experience.
This is all still in Charlotte then.
All still in Charlotte. But when I got pregnant with her, we were like, we're going to move to Winston because we need more space. And the housing market in Charlotte, like you can buy a shack.
Yeah.
So we were like, we're going to move. So we moved to Winston when I was like 30 something weeks pregnant. And we were like, I was like, you know what? It'll be fine. We'll just stay patients in Charlotte.
And you were going to drive to Charlotte to deliver?
We were going to drive to Charlotte.
With your labors being as fast as they are.
Yeah. So we were like,
interested to see what happens.
So, and my doula was like, I guess, like we had the same doula. And she was like, she was like, but if your water breaks, you are not allowed to drive to Charlotte. She was like, if your water breaks, you drive to the local hospital. And I was like, deal. Okay, fair.
So how did labor start and when did labor start?
So yeah, we decided we would have her in Charlotte, even though we moved away, because no one would take me that late. Also, like no one I wanted to be with wanted to take me that late. And I visited a few of the practices, the midwifery practices here, and I just didn't like any of them.
Yeah.
After the bar that has been set by the one in Charlotte, none of these compare. So we were like, I was like, I'm still going to deliver in Charlotte. And everyone was like, okay, fine. It's like, sure, I guess. Why not? And we put a bunch of towels and stuff in the car because we were like, maybe she'll be born in the car. We don't know. Whatever happens, happens. And because I'd gone into labor after the cervical sweep last time, our plan was to go to Charlotte for my 38-week appointment, do a cervical sweep, and then we were just going to go to the mall that's right across the road from the practice and just like walk around and hang out. And then when contractions started, I was just going to go to the hospital. And
so you were just going to stay in Charlotte for the day.
We were just going to stay in Charlotte. And, like my last was born after a cervical sweep at 38 weeks. So we were like, nothing, we'll just wait until then. So we were like, okay, this is like a decent plan. And my midwife, who I loved, my main midwife was like, I'm just going to like not chart your cervical dilation so that when you go in, you're having contractions and you'll be like 4 centimeters and they'll be like, oh, she's progressed, because I was already 4 centimeters, but she just didn't write it down. So there would be no record that I was 4 centimeters. So that when we went in, it would be like, oh, she just like, she's
in labor. Yeah.
Yeah. She's in labor. And that was the plan. And we were all like, okay, great plan. Great plan. So we were all set for that. And I was like a little stressed about it, but I don't know, like it was fine. I was excited. I was happy. And that way also we could drop our kids off at their grandparents who also live in Charlotte. So that's the plan. And then I woke up the morning I was 37-1, I want to say. I woke up and I had a shower. I woke up really early. I do not like to wake up early. I woke up at like 6:30. I was like, I never wake up at 6:30, but I was like, I just can't sleep because I'm pregnant and like my body hurts. And so I got up and I had a shower and I went into the kitchen and I made toast and I sat down on the couch. I was eating this toast and my stomach really hurt. And I told my husband, I was like, my stomach really hurts. Like, just really hurts. And he was like, okay. He was like, did you pull a muscle or something? And I was like, I don't know. I just have a stomach ache. And he was like, okay, weird. And I was like, I was like, it comes and goes, but it's like, I have a stomach ache. And he was like, okay. He was like, it comes and goes. It wasn't like timeable. It just came and went. And I was like, like weird. And I was like, I don't think it's anything. And he was like, okay, are you sure? And I was like, it's not anything. but it kept coming and going. And I was like, okay, this is a little weird. And it does like hurt. And I had an appointment at hematology later that day in Charlotte because I needed an iron transfusion that pregnancy, because I'd had really low iron levels. And so I had an appointment already in Charlotte. And so we were like, well, maybe we'll just drive to Charlotte early. We'll just go in a little early because this is a little weird. And and the other part of this is the night before, my in-laws, who were supposed to watch my kids while I was in labor, my in-laws got stuck on a flight. They were supposed to fly home from a wedding and the flight got canceled. So they were in Wisconsin and they were on a plane. I think they'd finally got on a plane at like 6:30 that morning from Wisconsin. And so I was texting my brothers-in-law like, hey, do you know when your parents land? Do you know when they land? And they were like, no, we don't know when they land. And I was like, interesting. Okay, no reason. Doesn't matter. And my husband says there's a moment where like I was like talking about this and I was like, maybe I'm in labor. I don't know. And I leaned up against one of the counters like during when I had this like pain. And he was like, you're in labor. He was like, we're leaving. We're leaving the house right now. Like call Sabrina, your doula, and tell her that you're going to Charlotte right now. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, okay, I'll call her. So I called her and woke her up. And she was like, okay. I was like, I think maybe I'm in labor. And she was like, okay. I was like, but I don't know. Like, I'm not really like hurting that much. And I was like, they're like 6 minutes apart. Like, it's like 6 minutes apart, but I don't really know when it starts or ends. She was like, well, how about this? She was like, I live near the hospital. So just come to my house and then we'll evaluate from there. I was like, okay. My husband packed up a bag for us to leave this house the fastest I've ever seen him pack a bag. He packed
And
up all the kids.
Did you have your girls with you? Yeah.
Yeah. So he packed up all their stuff. He packed up our stuff. I didn't have a hospital bag yet because I hadn't done that yet. I hadn't printed out their like daily schedule. I hadn't printed out like my birth plan. Like I had nothing.
Well, you're 37 weeks. So
right. I was like, and I don't know, like I hadn't done it yet. Like I thought I had until 38.
Yeah.
And so he packed everything up super fast. And we got in the car and it was like he did everything in like 50. We were in the car probably by like 7:45.
Wow, that was fast.
It was quick. And we got in the car and I was like, actually, maybe this is labor. Like my stomach does hurt. So we're in the car and the kids are in the back and I'm just like, no, everything's fine. Like they, like nothing's wrong. Like they're like, why are we leaving the house at 7:45 in the morning to go to Charlotte? I'm like, no, everything's fine. And they kept needing things. So I had to keep climbing into the back of the car. Like
while you're in labor.
Yeah. I kept having to climb back in there. And I was trying to like find a comfortable position in the car, but like nothing was comfortable. So I was just sitting there. And like I remember I'd have like one contraction every 2 songs. So they still were not very close together.
Every 2 songs.
Like, every 2 songs, like every 6 minutes. So like
like a 3 minutes.
Yeah. Like a song is like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, like every 6 minutes. And like, so I don't know, we got like a bit into the way and then we had to stop because one of my kids needed to use the bathroom. And like, we stopped in the parking lot of an Outback Steakhouse. And now every time I go past this Outback Steakhouse, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the Outback Steakhouse. And I was like almost in that parking lot. I was like, maybe I need to push. I was like, no, I do not. Like, we are not having this
Outback
baby in the Outback Steakhouse. So we get back in the like.
I think it's ironic because you're Australian, so
right.
Anyways,
I was like, we definitely cannot do that. So we keep driving, and then it hit a point where I was like, and I was still like, I could still talk, like we were still just hanging out, like we were joking, like it was a good mood, and we got to I don't know, like 20 minutes from the hospital, and finally. My in-laws like had signal again. And I was like, meet us at the hospital. I was like, you need to meet us in front of the hospital. And so they didn't have any checked bags. So they got off the plane and they drove to the hospital. And at that point I was like, I called Sabrina and I was like, we're not coming to your house. So I was like, we're going to the hospital. We will meet you there. And she was like, okay, great. So we go to the hospital. My in-laws got there like a minute before us. We got out of the car. We saw them for like 10 seconds. I was like, bye kids, love you. And they got in my car and drove it away. And we went inside. And part of the reason we hired my specific doula is because she really knew all of the midwives really well. And because when I'm in labor, I don't seem like I'm in labor. And like, I didn't want to be like not believed about being in labor.
Yeah.
We had her because they trust her. And she had called ahead and spoken to the midwife who was on duty and been like, listen, she's going to come in. She's going to seem like she's fine. Put her in a room. Like, you need to put her in a room. And so we did that, and we got there and we walked up to labor and delivery. The elevator was broken. We had to walk like so far to get to labor. And I remember like
you walked up the stairs.
Yeah, I was walking through the contractions, and I remember having one while I was walking, and I squeezed my husband's hand. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna keep walking. It's fine. I'm just gonna keep walking. I was like, I don't want someone to see that I'm in labor. I don't know why. I was like, someone can't see that I'm in labor. Like, that would be awful. So I don't know. So we get to labor and delivery, and she called ahead and she talked to them, and they were like, oh, you're Inara. And I was like, yes. And they were like, okay. They were like, fill this paperwork out. And I was like, okay. Like, I was like, really? Like,
we
really,
don't have
we need
time,
to,
but okay.
Yeah, I was like, I'm about to have a baby. And they were like, just sign this form really quick. And so I was like, okay. So I filled the paperwork out. They were like, we're going to take you to a room. I forget who this one midwife was. They were like, this midwife said to just put you in a room. And I was like, great, perfect, thank you. And we're walking to a room with this nurse, and the charge nurse saw us and was like, where are you taking her? And they were like, to a room. And she was like, no, she has to go through triage.
No.
And they were like, no, like this minute. And she was like, no, she has to go through triage. So I was like, okay. So, whatever, it's your guys' choice, I guess. So we went into triage, and they were like, you need to take all your stuff off, get undressed. I take all my clothes off, and we're still just talking to the nurse, like, oh, how's it been? Like, is it busy right now? Like, what are you up to? The weather is being good, blah, blah, blah. It was summer, and we were talking about the weather and stuff. And to her credit, the midwife came in really fast, and she checked me, and I was like 9 centimeters. And they were like, oh yeah, you indeed do not seem like you are 9 centimeters. And I was like, great. And they were like, okay, let's go to a room. And I was like, great. I like hopped off the bed. I put my shoes back on. We walked to the room. They're like, you're really putting your shoes back on right now? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to walk down the hall in my socks. So, so we get to the room, and the midwife comes in, and it's actually another midwife, and it's my midwife. It's the one I've seen like my whole pregnancy. And she was like, I just happened to be in the hospital today. Like, so I'm here. I'm here for your baby. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So she got us all set up. And then she was like, I'm just going to leave for a second. Well, actually, she hung out for a minute. She was just hanging out. We were just all chatting. And they were like, the nurse was like, you really like don't seem like you're in labor. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, my contractions were still like 6 minutes apart. They were like, I noticed them, but they were not bad. Like, I was like, it was fine. And we were just talking. We had fun. They, at one point her heart rate got kind of low. So they gave me some Sprite to drink, and we were just hanging out. And then the midwife was like, well, you're fully dilated. Like, we can just keep on waiting. And I was like, my last baby, when they broke my water, I had a baby like instantly. Can you just like do that? Because we'd been waiting for like a while. We'd been waiting like 40 minutes, and I hadn't had any contractions for like 40 minutes.
Zero? Like, they just stopped?
Like, nothing. They just stopped. I was fully dilated, and they just stopped. And
nice little break.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, can you just break my water? And they were like, yeah, we can do that. And I was like, okay, cool. So they broke my water, and then nothing continued to happen. And the midwife was like, you know what? She was like, I'm going to leave, because sometimes when I leave, the babies come.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So she left. The nurse stayed, and my doula stayed. And then my husband obviously was there, and we were still just talking. She was like a float nurse. So we were talking about like the city she was from, and we're just chatting. It was fine. And then I was like, maybe I remember saying like, maybe I need to push. And then she just like came out. Like there's, I don't know how, like, she literally just like fell out.
You don't remember pushing her out? She just like,
I didn't push her out. She just like, I remember saying, maybe I need to push. And they had this squat bar for me. They'd put that on because I'd asked for it. So I had this like squat bar, and I remember saying, maybe I need to push. And then I could feel her coming. like the ring of fire, like her like coming. And I remember my husband saying, oh yeah, like she's crowning. And then the nurse turned around to go get gloves, and then my husband caught her.
Oh,
And then like caught her, stopped her falling on the ground. And then the nurse came and had got her gloves on and like got the baby and stuff. But I guess I pushed for like 45 seconds. Like she just kind of came out. And then I remember the next thing I remember is the nurse being like, turning the intercom on. And they were like, hey, like, what do you need? And she was like, we need Christina in here now. We need the midwife in here now. And she was yelling into this intercom. And anyway, she was fine. She was 5 pounds. She was really
so
small.
tiny.
Yeah, but she was fine. She cried. My husband like delivered her on accident and he like loves that part of it. Like, and Christina, the midwife, came back in and she was like, see, I told you I just need to leave the room. And she was totally chill about it. And like, it was great. It was great. It was a great birth. I mean, like everything about it was great, but it was like, this like, I guess it was like a pain-free kind of mostly birth experience. Like,
yeah, sounds like it. I mean, other than your stomach hurting in the beginning.
Yeah, except my stomach hurting. But then it was nice. Like after the beginning, it was fine. Like it really wasn't even painful. And it was just like, it was such a like nice mood. It was such a like, everything was light and like the midwives were great and the nurses were great. And we just kind of were hanging out. And
So
like, it was
what time was she born?
like noon.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So like probably that was fast. Another like fast, especially because you didn't even realize that was happening.
Like honestly, it never felt like labor. Like it just was like occasionally I would like have I would have a contraction sometimes. It would be like mildly painful, but it was not bad. Like I could hang out, like I was talking, like it was fine.
Wow. Almost like the end of labor is like other people's early labor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and the Lord, I feel like that's such like a gift from him because like you said before, the conceptions and the pregnancies are so difficult. Then it's like, here's a very easy birth for you.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a very different experience. She's now a very difficult toddler. So I feel like I used up all my easy on her in the conception and the birth. But yeah, it was great. I mean, that's like honestly, of all my births, like it was just so, I don't know, everything was just so like fun. Like it was just fun, like
I love that.
Everything just happened. It was just funny. Like it was just such like a lighthearted sort of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it. Baby number 4, Scout story.
Like I really actually struggled with hers after she was born because it really didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. But she was like the one that like looking back on her birth she was the one where I was like, oh, this was all for a reason. Like everything that happened with her happened because it was supposed to happen like that. And I just didn't know yet.
Yeah.
But like there was like higher power watching over
God.
This. Yeah. There was like it wasn't my plan. Like it was not what I planned on and what I had expected, but like it was like his plan. And like, so her pregnancy was overall pretty good. But then around like, I want to say like 25, 30 weeks, I woke up and well, I guess like I had the bleeding in the beginning, but overall, like it was an easy pregnancy. I wasn't as sick as the others. Like I had more energy. I was able to eat more food. I was on oral Zofran, but like I didn't need more than that.
That's good.
Yeah. So I woke up around like somewhere around 25, 30 weeks and I had this like huge like bulge in like my vagina and I was freaking out. And so I got in with a PT, a pelvic PT.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah. They were like, you have a stage 3 bladder prolapse. Like it was like on the outside. Like it was so bad. And I'd never had any prolapse before, like ever. And they were like, okay, by the way, if you're ever pregnant and have a prolapse, do not Google it. Don't Google prolapse.
No, because you don't want to see that.
When you Google prolapse, everything is like, it's horrendous. It's like, you're going to need a hysterectomy. Like you're never going to have any more kids. Like, we don't even know if you can have a vaginal birth. Like, it's like so disasterizing online. And so I was like freaking out. And I was talking to the PT and I was like, does this mean I can never have more kids? And she was like, we really don't know what's going to happen. We really don't know what's going to happen because it might get worse. Like it might get really, like if it, it could become a stage 4. And then at that point, there's really not a lot they can do except surgery. But if they do the surgery, you can't have babies anymore. And like, there's, so like there was really bad and it was uncomfortable. Luckily, I didn't have a lot of actual symptoms. Like if you have a prolapse that bad, usually you have a lot of like symptoms, like leaking and like, pain and stuff. I didn't really have any symptoms except that you could see my bladder like externally. So that was like very stressful. And so they were like, just basically try to not push for too long and hope for the best. They were like, we really don't know what's going to happen.
Good luck.
Yeah. They were like, we really don't know what's going to happen. They were like, we won't know until like 6 weeks after she's born. We won't know.
Yeah.
And I was, oh my gosh. I was like, okay, well, like, I'm not like, I don't want to be done having kids. Like, I'm not hoping this isn't my last kid. And like,
yeah,
if it gets bad enough, then the only treatment apparently is a hysterectomy. So, and my midwife was very like, she was like, you can still have a vaginal delivery with this. She was like, it's true. We don't know what's going to happen, but like, there's no reason that you don't need like, you can still have a vaginal delivery.
Yeah.
So we just kept going and it got worse and worse as the pregnancy went on. And it was really uncomfortable, but like still luckily I didn't have a lot of symptoms, but it was there. And as I went on in my pregnancy, I carried my baby's really low. Her head got lower and lower. And the lower her head got, it got to the point where I couldn't even do the exercise that they'd given me to fix it because you can't do a Kegel if there's a baby in your vagina.
Yeah.
Like, so we were just like, okay, well, there's nothing to do at this point except wait. And so then, and sorry, the major point of this is with my fourth, after my second and third, we were like, there's no way we're making it to hospital. We're going to have a home birth.
Oh, nice.
So we were like, we're going to have her at home because this feels like the right choice. And then also after switching to having a home birth, I was like, oh, I could never do this the other way again. Like, unless I needed to, I was like, this is amazing. So
well,
this is great.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Once you go home birth, it's hard to go any other way.
I don't regret any of my births. They were what I needed at the time, but like, it was wonderful. So we were having a home birth with her. And so around 38 weeks, my midwife, I was like, can you check me and see where we are? Because I want to know if I start having contractions, do I like how quickly do I need to call you? Right. Yeah. And she was like, yeah, sure. And she checked me at like 38 weeks. I was like 5 centimeters.
Solid.
And I was like, okay. She was like, if you breathe wrong, call us. And I was like, got it. And so I felt like so like watched for the last like couple of weeks. Like everything I did, if I like got up a little too like heavy, my husband would just like stare at me. He was like, are you in labor? Like what? Like, cause no one trusted me. Like I didn't trust me. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, so everyone was, and there was one day where I started having contractions and my midwife came over and they were regular, but they didn't hurt. And I was like, they don't hurt though. And she like felt my stomach for them. And she was like, yeah, she's like, you are having contractions. So then that day, like every like 20 minutes, I'm getting a text from like my midwife or my husband, like, what's happening? Like, what are you doing? Like, you need to tell us if something's happening. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. Like, so, but I will like, I refuse to admit that I'm in labor until there's like a baby coming out. So like, it was fair, but anyway, it fizzled out. Like nothing came of it. And at 39 weeks, I still had the really bad prolapse. And I was also measuring on track for the first time in my life. I have never had my fundal heights measure correctly. All of my babies, my fundal heights, I've never gotten past like 32. Like I've never gotten past 32.
Wow. Okay.
So they're low and they're smaller babies and they're in there. Right. Mm-hmm. And this time, like I was measuring like 37 at 37 and 38 at 38. And I'm like, I'm really worried this is going to be a really big baby. My midwife was like, no, it's fine. She's like, I'll be shocked if she's 8 pounds. Like, don't worry about it. I was like, okay. I mean, I had a 5-pound baby before this baby.
Right.
So we talked about it. And she was like, I've never done a cervical sweep on someone that was not 40 weeks yet. But I was 39 weeks and I was having all of these issues with this prolapse, and it was getting so painful and so uncomfortable. And basically every day she was in there, it was doing more damage to my pelvic floor.
Yeah.
And so we talked about it at 38 weeks. And she was like, if you're still pregnant at 39 weeks, we can do it if you want to do it. And I was like, I think I want to do it. And it was really hard because I really went into this pregnancy with the same attitude that I'm trying to have now with postpartum, where I was like, we're going to let it happen. We're not going to intervene. Like, I have a real pathological need to be in control of things and rush things and like have things happen on my timeline. And I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I want to trust that there's a God looking out for me that has a plan in mind for me. And I need to trust that. At the same time, I was miserable. And so I was like having this active, like, pelvic floor damage happening.
Right.
And so we were like, okay, let's do it. We'll make the choice to do this. And so at 39 weeks, we had the scheduled for it was like 39 plus 1. We had scheduled an appointment and she was going to do a sweep for me at that appointment. And I did not go into labor. I was 5 centimeters for like another week. Like, I just hung out at 5 centimeters. And the morning of, she texted me and she was like, oh, well, one of my clients thinks they're in labor, so I don't know if we're going to have our appointment today. And I was like, okay, like, no problem. Like, whatever. She was like, I'm going to go check on her. And then if she isn't in labor, I'll still come to you this afternoon. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And so I didn't hear anything, and I was like moping about it because I was like, we were going to have a baby today and now we're not going to have a baby. So we went and got Chick-fil-A hash browns and we're like, okay, it's going to be fine. Whatever. And then she texted me and she was like, actually, she's not in labor, so I'm going to come up and we'll still do this today. I was like, oh, okay. So she came up and we had our appointment. She did the sweep. And then she left and she was like, I'm like not even going to like leave the area. So like, if anything happens, text me, call me. And I was like, yeah, I will. Everything's fine. And she did the sweep. And then we have a gym in our basement. And I walked on the treadmill for like 20 minutes. And within like that 20 minutes, I started having like actual contractions. But again, like, they weren't painful, but they were like, they were like every 2 minutes, but they were not painful. And so I was like, I'm just going to wait on it. And my husband was like, are you having contractions? And I was like, yes, but they're not bad. He was
they're
like, that doesn't
never
mean
bad
anything.
with you.
Yeah. He was like, that doesn't mean anything. And I was like, no, let's wait. But then our midwife texted me, Carly texted me, and she was like, what's going on? And I was like, I'm having some contractions, but they are not bad. And she was like, okay. She was like, do I need to come? And I was like, no. I was like, don't come. It's fine. And she was like, okay. And then they kept going. But again, they were like, I could feel them, but they weren't bad. They were timeable, but they were not painful. Like, I made the kids some dinner and stuff. And she texted me again and she was like, what's happening now? And I was like, they're still there. And she was like, I'm going to come. She was like, I'm coming up. I was like, okay, like, if you want. And she was like, and I'm going to tell the midwife assistant to come now too. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, fine. And then after they said that, I actually did have one where I was like, oh no, actually I'm in labor. Like, that really actually like did hurt. So then I told my husband to like set the broom up and like change the bed sheets and stuff like that. And he was really excited. And he was like, okay, like, we told the kids, like, we're like, okay, like, I think we're going to have a baby tonight. And my oldest daughter, especially, has been like, she'd been waiting 9 months for this baby. Like, she's so excited about this baby. So she was like, I mean, the kids were like bouncing off the walls. And the midwife assistant only lives like 20 minutes from me. So she showed up first and she was just hanging out. We were just hanging out. I went to the bedroom because the kids were really loud. And like, Chris finished setting up the bedroom and I went to the bedroom. Kids were like a lot. And so I was like, I'm going to go be by myself for a minute. And so I was in the bedroom and our midwife assistant came and she was like, how are you? We were just talking. And the midwife showed up and I was like, I really don't know if I'm in labor. she showed up and I was like, I just really don't know. I was like, these don't feel that strong to me. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like we're getting anywhere. And she was like, well, let's just give it a few hours. They brought all the equipment in and we were just like, I was in the bedroom. We put our kids to bed. We were like, well, we promise we'll wake you up if anything happens. And they were like, okay. And we put them to bed. And I really, really struggled with like doubting myself for this one. Like I really was like, I don't know. I really just like was struggling with like, this doesn't seem right. And like, I was like, I don't know. And then things weren't happening. Like that's the thing is all my labors have been like bang, 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 like so fast. And this was not that. Like it wasn't fast. Like so everyone got there and we were like, well, everyone's here. We're gonna have a baby within like an hour with my history. And then we didn't. We didn't have a baby within an hour. Like time kept on passing and like
Did you keep on contracting while time was
yeah, I
passing?
was still and they were every 2 minutes. And like so I think around like 8
PM?
I asked 8 p.m.
Okay. Just making sure we didn't like go through the night like
8
okay.
p.m. I was like, can you check my cervix again? Can you check we're even doing anything? And she checked me and I was like 6.5. And she was like, yeah, like she was like, you're in labor. Like things are happening. I really regret that I just doubted everything so much. Like I didn't enjoy it because I was like stressing. I was stressing that it wasn't like what I pictured, because what I pictured this whole time was this really fast birth. Like, the whole time we'd been talking about like, would the midwife even make it? And like, we'd gotten like a full walkthrough of like all this stuff, like, because they were expecting that my husband was going to have to deliver her again. And like,
right. Because it was going to go so fast.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. And so I was like, what's happening? And so I was really struggling. And I was like, really like, I just kept thinking like, what if everyone is here and then like nothing happens? Like, I'm going to be so like, I'm going to be embarrassed. Like, I'm going to be like, I should know better. Like, this is my 4th baby.
Yeah. Which the stress of all that is probably not helping your labor progress.
Like looking back on it, I'm like, oh no, like everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. I just didn't know it yet that it was supposed to happen that way. But like, so I was hanging out in the bedroom while I was in labor. Our midwife got a call from another mother and they were like, oh, she's going to have like, she was like a first time mother. And I could hear the phone call and they were like, well, no, she's probably not going to have a baby yet because it's her first baby. And anyway, she ended up having to send the backup midwife out to her. And she had the baby before the midwife even got there, like super, super fast. And so, but then I'm hearing this and now I'm here like in labor and I'm like, that's what was supposed to happen to me. Like that was what I pictured this whole time. So I was like, what's going on? Like, and then I felt like, I didn't feel bad. Like I felt like, but I felt like, I was like, I don't know how to deal with this because this isn't the experience I've ever had. And hearing this phone call, I was like, oh, that's what I expected. Mm-hmm. Like, what is this that I'm living when that was what I was supposed to be living?
Right.
Anyway, so things keep going. I think around like, we ended up doing another cervical sweep because I was like, okay, like, I was like, I feel like things are not going. Can we just like do it again and just see if it picks back up? I was so tired. I hadn't slept for like the last month of pregnancy because I'd had this like back muscle issue. And so I couldn't lie down. Mm. And so I hadn't slept for like a month and I was so tired. And so they did another cervical sweep and contractions like continued. But it was just not the speed which I was used to. And like,
right.
The midwife assistant are like, this is a totally normal speed to be in labor. Like, this is totally normal. And I was like,
right.
no,
it's just not your normal.
Right. I was like, this isn't normal to me. Like something's wrong. Like it's not where, and I was just really in my head. And my husband was like, no, I know what you look like when you're in labor. This is it. Like, this is it. Like the way you're acting, you're in labor. And he was, because I was so like, and my midwife even asked him, she was like, is she in labor? And he was like, yeah, she's in labor. And
he obviously knows best because he's the one who got you to the hospital for your third.
He does. He need to trust him more about it. But so I was like trying to just like, but I also like I was trying to be in like a good mindset about it. I was like, I'm going to stay in this bedroom. Cause I was like, I could go out and just talk to the midwife team right now. I feel fine. Like I could go out and just like have a good time. And I was like, no, I'm going to stay in this bedroom. And like, I wanted almost to like talk myself into the contractions being painful or not painful, but like feel like something. I was like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to focus on these contractions and I'm going to walk around this room and I'm going to like I'm going to make something happen. Like, I'm going to, like, I need to be like in the mindset about it. Like, I need to sit here and like put my energy into like making this like continue. And so she checked me again and I was like, at like midnight and I was like 7 centimeters and I was so tired. And I had that labor thing where time was passing like totally like wrong. Like to me, it felt like it had been like 20 minutes, but it had actually been like 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they told me the time, I was like, it's what time? Like, what do you mean? Like, it's the next day. And so I was exhausted. And my my big promise to myself for this one, I was like, I'm not going to get my water broken. I was like, my water doesn't break on its own. I was like, if I don't get my water broken, I want to have like an on-call birth. That's my like, I was like, I really want to have an on-call birth.
And you could because your babies are smaller.
And my babies are small and my water never breaks until like it's broken. So I was like, I have a good chance at this. I was like, I'm not going to do it. Like, this is my, like, I'm going to let things play out how they're supposed to play out. But then it was like after midnight, I was so tired. I was like, you know what?
When did you cave?
Yeah, I was like, I can't anymore. I was like, I'm so tired and I can't. I'm like stressing and I'm just in my head and like, I need something to happen. I was like, I need this to hurt. I need this to hurt so that I feel like there's no going back. Like, I need this to feel real. Because when I laid down, I couldn't even feel them at all. And so I laid down and I actually was like lying down she checked my cervix and she was like, are you having a contraction? I was like, I don't feel anything. She was like, no, I can feel that you're having a contraction right now. But when I was lying down or like even sitting, I couldn't feel them at all. But they were apparently like, she was feeling them. She felt my stomach. She was like, these are good contractions. Like, these are good, strong contractions. But to me, like, I just didn't feel anything. And it was really, and that's one of the things that's really hard about, like, you know, like everyone wants to have like a birth that doesn't hurt, right? Like everyone wants to have like these pain-free births. But it's hard because it's really hard, like mentally to be in a place where you're in labor, but it's not going how labor's supposed to go according to like, you know, what you're being told about labor. And it's really, you don't know how far along you are. Like, you don't know like what's like, you know, it makes it a lot harder to gauge where you are. And I feel like it makes it hard to stay in the headspace of being in labor because, you know, I could have for most of my labor, like at that point still I was 7 centimeters and they broke my water and I could have gone and like baked a cake. Like, I was fine. It's very easy to like talk yourself out of it almost. Like, it's hard to stay in the headspace of like, I'm going to have a baby and I need to focus on this. I need to like be inwards on this, but you don't feel like it. So how do you stay there? So it's like, it's harder to stay in the right mentality, I feel like.
When you're having a pain-free birth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you know, again, like now, especially after she was born, like looking back, they broke my water and things like started actually hurting because that cushion was gone. And I was like, okay, I actually did need this. Like, I needed this to switch my mindset to like, I'm having a baby. I needed this. And after that, I felt so much better. Like, even though it hurt, I felt so much better because I was like, okay, this feels real now. Like, this feels like, because I was in no pain, even though I was dilating, it really felt like I didn't really feel like I'd disappoint like my birth team if I didn't have a baby, but I was like, my kids think that I'm having a baby. And if they wake up and there's no baby, they're going to be so disappointed. Like, they're going to be, and I'm going to disappoint these kids. And like, that was really hard. Like, that was really hard to like, and it just was it was taking so long. And she was my longest labor. Like, you know, after 4 babies, she was my longest labor. But so anyway, they broke my water. And then after that, things like picked up. And I was like ready to push. And we woke up my kids because they wanted to be there.
So what time is
we
it
woke
now?
The kids up. 1:30 maybe. I don't have a clock in my bedroom, so I'm not sure. Like, I didn't actually track the time on this one as much as I did the others.
And I just didn't know if it was like closer to midnight or if it was like 6 a.m.
No, it was like 1 a.m., like 1:30, I think. And like with all my kids, I've actually always had my phone where I actually like looked at my phone during contractions because it's like a good distractor. Is I'll just like I'll just scroll Facebook during a contraction, like I'm just reading something. And if I'm reading something, I can just focus on that. And this time I was like, no, it can't just be on Facebook. Like, I need to experience these contractions and like I need to like visualize that they're doing stuff. I need to like focus. So I didn't have my phone for this one. Which means I didn't have time as much as I did with the other ones. But we woke up the kids. We didn't wake up the toddler. We woke up the two bigger girls. So they were almost 4. They were 3 and 5. And they really wanted to be there. And my 5-year-old really wanted to, her job was going to be announcing the name of the baby and cutting the cord. And my 3-year-old really wanted to catch the baby. Catch in quotations,
quote unquote catch.
Yes, she wanted to catch the baby. And we were like, you know what? Sure, you can catch the baby. And we talked to my midwife about it. And she was like, sure, we can do that. Because my husband was going to be the one catching the baby, actually. So we were like, we can do that. So we woke them up and they were so excited. And I loved having them there. Like I loved having them there so much because like the contractions were probably the most painful contractions I felt besides my Pitocin contractions. Like I do not vocalize for contractions. And for the last few of these before pushing, like I actually had to like vocalize for, but we brought the kids in and they were so excited and they got all dressed and they're like, they would not shut up. It was amazing. I loved it. They just kept talking. And it was awesome. Like everyone was trying to make them be quiet. And I was like, no. I was like, let them talk. And like my eldest was like, why is it taking so long? Like, why is it like, whatever. And it was me. I was laughing. My husband got them some books they could read. So I have photos of them sitting on the bed and I'm like over here, like on hands and knees in labor. And they're over here, like reading their little books at like 2 a.m. And they kept trying to tell everyone on the birth team. They were just trying to talk to everyone. They were telling them about their books. Like, oh, this part in my book is so funny. Like, do you know in this book, like this happens? And everyone's trying to, like let your mom focus, like, shh. And they were like, no, I'm not doing that. I have things to tell you. So, cause they talk nonstop anyway. So they're just on and on and on. So they're talking. And I loved it. And then it was time for pushing. I was like, okay, I didn't have this was the first time that I didn't have a cervical check to check that I was ready to push. Like I did have cervical checks, but I didn't have one before, but like, which was interesting because all my other ones, that they check you when you say you're ready to push, they check.
Right.
And so I just was like, no, I think I need to push. Or I actually don't even know if I said that. I think I was just like, okay, I think I like said that I changed my mind or something like that. And they were like, and I knew when I said it, I was like, this is the thing people say when they need to push. And I was like, I'm going to say it anyway. And the midwife team was like, when I said it, we were like, yeah, they were like, it means you're about to have a baby. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, I did know that, but here I am anyway. So when I started pushing, it was fine. They told me to slow down, pushing her head out. They were trying to prevent tearing. They were like, slow down. I was like, I cannot do that. So her head came out and then like nothing else came out. Like that was like her head came out and I was pushing and nothing happened. And I was like, she's stuck. Like she's stuck. And they were like, no, it's okay. And I was like, no, get her out. I remember like I yelled, like, get her out. And it was the weirdest. I've never felt anything like it before. Like I was pushing and nothing was happening. Like she was just not moving.
Right. Usually your babies just fall out of you.
They just fall out. Once their head's out, they just fall out and nothing was happening. And so the midwife assistant like popped my leg up because I had both knees on the ground. So they put one of my legs like in like a running position and she still didn't come out. And the midwife put her hand in and like fished her shoulder out and pulled her out. And she was fine. Like they pulled her out and she was fine. But I'd never felt anything like that feeling of her being like stuck in there. Like, and in labor, I couldn't like say this coherently to my birth team, but like, they were like, no, it's okay. And I was like, no, something is wrong. Like, this does not feel right. Like I've delivered 3 babies and this does not feel right. Like something's wrong. But I could just feel that she was not budging. And the 3-year-old did not get to deliver her because they had to fish her out. So she was upset for a second. And then my oldest was upset for a second because of the energy shift in the room when she got stuck for a second. It wasn't even me yelling or anything because we'd prepped her a lot for like noise during labor. We'd watched a lot of birth videos, but it was like the whole energy in the room shifted and she was upset. But then we were like, oh no, you need to tell everyone the baby's name. And then she was fine. She was like, oh yeah. And she was so excited. She told everyone the baby's name. And then she scared me so much because she didn't cry, like, at all. She didn't cry. And I'm like, "Is she okay? Is she okay?" And they're like, "No, she's fine. She's fine."
So she was breathing and when
She was breathing. She just looking around at everyone. She
okay.
didn't cry.
So was she like pinking up fine?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Apgar was beautiful. I mean, she was great. She just,
Wasn't very vocal.
no, she was like just looking around at everyone. And my daughters still tell everyone, I'm trying to like teach them this is not actually how you appropriately open a conversation. But every new person they meet now, they're like, "Did you know we saw our sister be born and she didn't cry?" And we told them it was because she was so happy to see them. So she didn't cry. So they tell everyone she didn't cry because she was so happy to see us. And which is very cute, but is not the way you introduce yourself to someone.
Right. Right. Well, of course, because they hear she didn't cry and they're probably like, oh my gosh, was she okay?
Yeah. They're like, "No, she was so happy to see us." And they were like, "You were at the birth?" And then they're like, "Yeah, we were there. We saw her be born." And like, I'm like, we got to stop telling like the cashier at Harris Teeter this story. Like, like they don't
Love
need to
it.
know this story. So they still are telling everyone this story. And I'm like, it's great, but also like maybe let's work on other conversation openers.
Yes.
So but she was born, she did fine. They like got her shoulder out, no problem. But and I also was the first time that I didn't have any postpartum bleeding. Like it was the first time I didn't need Pitocin. So I don't know if that was because she took longer or what, but that was the first time I didn't need Pitocin after birth to stop the bleeding.
Maybe because your uterus had to work so much harder to get her
Yeah.
out and it was squeezed. So it was like contracting better or something.
Yeah. They gave me some herbs too, which I think I think that helped.
Yeah. Home birth midwives typically would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't have Pitocin for the first time. And then she was 9 pounds.
Oh, girl.
They were
That's
like,
why.
that is probably why she took so long. She was 9 pounds. And that's probably why she got a little bit stuck in there is she was 9
Yeah.
pounds. And like, obviously like people have bigger babies than 9 pounds, but I am a
Right. But that was like
very
almost
small
a whole
person.
baby bigger than your
It was
last baby.
twice the size of my last baby.
Yeah.
And I'm a very small person. And like, that's a big baby for me.
Yeah.
So anyway, after she was born though, I really I felt like I'd failed. Like I really felt like I'd failed. Like I was like, I had this vision of how this was supposed to go and it didn't go that way. And like, I've like done something wrong. Like, I don't know. I was like, it's like I did something wrong. And it took me several weeks. And I like talked to my midwife and I talked to like several of the people who were there and they were like, "What are you talking about? Like everything was fine. Like it was great. Your labor was like, my active labor was 6 hours. My total labor was 12 hours." They were like, "That's totally normal." And I was like, "No, but it's not what I pictured." Also, when you're pregnant, Instagram and Facebook and everything love to serve you up like constant, if you do this during labor, you've done this wrong kind of like content,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had this real vision for like, I was not going to have my water broken. I wasn't going to have any cervical checks. Like I wasn't going to have a cervical sweep. I was going to have this like perfect natural birth, right? That you're supposed to have have the perfect birth. And so I really felt like I'd failed after. I was like, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. My team was amazing. My birth team was amazing. Like I loved them. Like my kids were there. I had pictured basically having a baby as the midwife walks through the door or like without the midwife in there. And I wasn't going to have cervical checks. And I was just going to have this baby. And it was going to be like such a good story because my last baby is such a good story. And like,
yeah,
I had this whole like vision for it. And I really felt like I'd failed at it. And like, I really struggled actually. Like I cried a lot about it. And it also like was postpartum. So I cried about everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, this is not what was supposed to happen. And then it took a few weeks and my husband was very patient and we talked about it over and over and over again. And like now though, I realized like kind of as time went on, like I'd struggled so much with these choices that I'd made and this vision that I had for what birth was going to look like with, cervical checks and with breaking my water and like how long it took and, my like everything. And at the time, though, I was making these choices and I just felt like I was supposed to make these choices, even though they weren't the choice I had planned on making.
Mm-hmm.
And now looking back on like how everything kind of unfolded and how everything happened, I'm like, oh, maybe this was the plan. Like maybe this was like, there was like holy work in why these things happen, because if I hadn't had the cervical sweep, she wouldn't have been born at 39 weeks. She was very comfortable in there. And if she hadn't been born at 39 weeks and she'd been in there gaining weight for another week or two, who knows how much she would have weighed. And then would she have gotten more stuck? And then if I hadn't called, when I called the midwife, or the midwife team hadn't arrived when they did, if birth hadn't took longer than it was supposed to take, or in my mind, how long it was supposed to take, then what if she'd gotten stuck and it was just me and my husband? Like all of these things that happened, I'm like, maybe everything turned out really like beautifully how it was supposed to turn out. Maybe there was like maybe it wasn't this like perfect non-intervention birth that like Instagram tells you you're supposed to have nowadays, but like I feel like God was watching over us, and these choices that we made were inspired by something we didn't understand yet, but like God was inspiring these choices, because now looking back, I'm like, if we hadn't made these choices, like who knows what would have happened.
Right.
Like with my pelvic floor, with her delivery, like, my husband can do a lot of things, but like delivering a baby with a shoulder dystocia is probably not on the list. And like just all of these things that happened, I'm like, maybe this was just divine intervention. And like, maybe it wasn't my plan, but maybe it like was the plan. Maybe it was how it was supposed to turn out. And like, maybe one day I'll get a birth with, they don't break my water and I'll have no cervical checks and stuff, but maybe it just wasn't supposed to be this birth.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like looking back on it, it really actually did give me like a lot of faith, because I was like, oh, like I just needed to trust the plan. Like I just needed to trust the plan.
The planner.
Yes. It just wasn't my plan. And that's okay. Like that was okay. And that actually was for the better, because my plan would have been not a good, and let me not like a, it would have been okay.
Well, it could have ended traumatically. It could have,
it could have ended much more negatively than it ended this way. Everything was perfect with this. It just wasn't this like
your initial vision.
Yeah, it wasn't the vision. It wasn't the plan I had set.
Well, and that's sort of like the entire root of my business and my podcast and everything is surrender, like surrendering your plan to his.
Yeah.
Because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I feel like it taught me a lot, like especially as like someone who's new to religion and new to belief, it taught me like a lot of like, okay, like it's okay if I'm not in control of this, because like he is in control of this.
Right.
And like, just because it didn't work out how I expected it to work out didn't necessarily mean it was bad.
Right.
Like, but that was really hard to come to terms with. Like, and I do think it taught me that. But I also don't know, if it would have been, I would have been receptive to the message if it was taught to me in a less dramatic way.
Right. Like, I mean, there are situations that the Lord has to use in order to teach us something, like knowing that we're not just going to get it from a Sunday sermon or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it was like, oh, this happened for these reasons. And now looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, like thank God that everything lined up how it lined up, and thank God that it worked out how it worked out, because who knows what would have happened if it hadn't worked out this way.
Right. So now you're 3.5 months postpartum and you're nursing your baby, and you're just taking it easy and not trying to rush into another pregnancy, and just bonding and cuddling, and you've been able to have this time to reflect, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's been really good. And I do think that I have been able to enjoy. At the first few weeks postpartum, I did not enjoy, because I was just like, it was so hard to like be taught this lesson. And, but I think now I'm like, it really like put in perspective for me, like, no, it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to work out. I don't need to have all the answers about how it's going to be okay. Like, I don't need to know exactly what's going to happen. I don't need to know exactly when things are going to happen. I just need to enjoy where I'm at. And I do hope that I get to have another baby one day, because I want to have this new perspective for birth.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it's okay that I don't know when that's going to happen. Like,
Right.
we'll make it happen, but it doesn't have to be right now. And I don't need to know exactly when it's going to happen because the timing it will happen with will be correct.
Yeah.
It just won't necessarily be my timing.
That's right. Keep telling yourself that. And I
Yeah.
want you, when it comes time and you get the inkling and the feeling that you're really wanting to get pregnant, you need to listen to this episode over and over again and remind yourself of what you just said. Because I'll have to do that sometimes. I'll have to like write something down in my journal or my prayer journal. And then when I'm actually in the thick of it, I'll have to go back and read it and be like, that's right. That's right. Let me remind myself of what I already told myself.
Exactly.
Yes.
So right now we're just enjoying the right now. And I'm trying not to, the future is in God's hands. And I trust also that, like my husband said, that he wouldn't give me a desire for more children if he wasn't like, he wouldn't make it feel like it's the vocation, it's the thing that I'm supposed to do with my life if there wasn't a pathway to it, even if it's not the pathway I'm expecting it to be.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to trust in that and enjoy trying to make it to a year breastfeeding instead of trying to
get pregnant again.
wean my kids to get pregnant again.
Right. Well, I hope you're going to enjoy it. I'm enjoying it. For those, well, I guess nobody would know because we haven't said it, but my son Bowie and Inara's daughter Scout were born on the exact same date. So what time was she? Did she end up being born?
She was born at 2:51, I think.
So right as she was being born is right when I started to question whether or not I was beginning labor. So you finished and I started.
Yeah. I feel like, and then, I'm like, she might've been the first home birth baby born in the county for the day,
Probably
not
was.
that I know that, but I'm like, maybe she was,
Well, it's a good thing we didn't have the same midwife, but as we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to say before we officially ended?
No, I don't think so. Thank you. It's actually been very therapeutic to go over everything.
I hear that a lot. So many people come on here and say honestly, because, I have this podcast for other people so they can listen to it and learn from it, be encouraged in their faith, be encouraged in their births and be educated. But so many people who are on here and who share their stories say, actually, that was healing for me. And that was therapeutic for me to go through and talk through everything.
I've been feeling pretty good about my perspective on her birth, but to lay it all out, I'm like, no, it really was. It really did go how it was supposed to go. Things went how they were meant to be.
So let that be an encouragement to people who have hesitated reaching out to share their story, that maybe you'll feel that much better about it after you share it and tell it.
Actually. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I honestly, sometimes my prior clients or students will come on and share their stories and I have a general idea of how it went. But I also love it when I have no idea what someone's about to tell me because I'm on the edge of my seat. Seriously, what happens next? I need to know. So thank you so much. And hopefully we can connect in person one day.
Yes, I think for sure. I'm sure our paths will cross.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week, and remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. My daughter just told me I smell like spaghetti. I have no idea what that means. The only thing I can attribute it to is maybe I have spit up somewhere in my body that
Probably.
hasn't gotten wiped off yet.